thank everyone for your patience. We just left a wonderful, wonderful luncheon hosted by the Urban League. And we want to give a special thanks to the Urban League, to our president, our national president, President Morial, to our Columbus president, President Hightower. We want to thank them for their leadership and their partnership. Certainly we want to thank, Senator Kearney and I would like to thank our colleagues who represent the Columbus area for joining us here today. And we have Senator Tavares, Representative Hurd, and Representative Weddington. So thank you so much for hosting us here today. You know, the Urban League talked about today, and President Morial talked about in his remarks, putting urban America back to work, which is a 12-point plan by the Urban League. And in his remarks, he said the following, that this recession is not an average recession. And I agree with that 125%. And Senator Kearney and I, along with our colleagues, are committed to working with the Urban League and other organizations who are truly focused on putting people back to work. And here today, Senator Kearney and I are unveiling our Forward Ohio plan as a framework to do just that. You know, Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of now. I would like to add to Dr. King the fierce urgency of yesterday, the fierce urgency of now, and the fierce urgency of tomorrow. And government's role, I believe, and the roles of organizations like the Urban League is to create environments of employment for all people, for Ohioans. We know that job recovery is lagging behind the economy. And this is not just a moment in time. This is not just a flash. This is a serious, deep recession that has caused chaos and uncertainty in the lives and households of Ohioans. And what have we, as elected officials, been doing in the state of Ohio to try to turn this around? This is a situation of crisis for many individuals and many families. So our Forward Ohio plan seeks to do 4 very important things. Helping small businesses compete and expand. We know as government officials that the private sector creates most of the jobs, and that, however, we have a moral and fiduciary obligation to create the right environments to help the private sector create those jobs. You know, former Labor Secretary Robert Reich talked about the crisis that we have, that there is a need in this country that in order to keep up with population, we need to create 125,000 jobs per month. We know today that that is not happening, and that is why it is imperative that government steps in and that we do our part to make sure that no family and no child is left behind for want of a job. Secondly, our Forward Ohio plans positions Ohio's economy for growth, creating pathways to employment, and our last major point is stabilize and revitalize our communities. And with that, I am going to turn this over to my more than capable colleague and my partner in all of this, State Senator Eric Kearney.
Thank you very much, Senator Turner. And I'd also like to echo her comments about President Morial and for his commitment to work with us on this particular issue. It's absolutely wonderful to have his type of leadership here in Ohio and his commitment to this effort. We greatly appreciate it. Also, I'd like to thank Donna Jones-Baker, who is the Urban League president from Cincinnati, who's here, and I certainly know her work because I'm a state senator from Cincinnati and know her commitment to the community and greatly appreciate it. And finally, I'd like to thank our staff who is here, not only from the caucus, but also our staff in both of our Senate offices. As Senator Turner mentioned, there are 4 components of Forward Ohio. 1, helping small businesses. 2, putting Ohio in a position for growth. 3, a pathway for jobs. And 4, stabilizing the community. This piece of legislation is a gumbo, if you will, Mr. Morial, where we combined a number of different parts of pieces of legislation that have been put forth or have been thought of before. So, for instance, we took ideas from the Buckeye Institute, which is a conservative organization. We took ideas from Greater Ohio, and we took ideas from the Center for Community Solutions. And so the product of that, for instance, with helping small businesses compete and expand, is a small business microloan program that is part of this legislation. Also an expansion of the bonding capacity that's provided for smaller businesses from $1 million to $2 million. With respect to positioning Ohio for growth, we have an infrastructure development loan program and a tax credit for broadband development. As many of you know, poorer areas of Ohio, both Appalachian and also urban areas, don't have access to broadband communication. So in order to prepare these communities for the future, we've made that an integral part of this piece of legislation. Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Hightower, who is the president of the Columbus Urban League. She is going to make a few comments and then I believe turn it over to Mr. Morial, if that is correct. She just had, as Senator Turner mentioned, a wonderful luncheon. I want to say that there were probably 1,000 people in the convention center, and so the people in Columbus certainly know how to have a party.
Thank you, Senator Kearney. And you know what, it really wasn't a party, it was more of a theme to really reintroduce the Urban League to our community and to reintroduce it in a way so that people understand how relevant we are. And I think Mark's comments today really spoke to the relevancy and how important the Urban League movement is in this country today. But I have the honor really right now, not so much to talk about what we do here, but to introduce our national leader, who I am proud to be affiliated with. From its offices in New York City, the National Urban League spearheads the efforts of more than 100 local affiliates through the development of programs, policy, public research, and advocacy. And each year, the National Urban League produces its Equality Index, measuring the challenges facing African Americans. For example, according to the 2011 Equality Index, the African American unemployment rate was on average 2 times higher than that of whites. The median household income was nearly 40% less than that earned by white households. And African Americans were nearly 3 times as likely as whites to live below the poverty line. Now, data defines the need at the National Urban League, and directing the actions to address those needs is our national president, Mark Morial. And Mark has been a true catalyst for change, expanding this historic organization's work around a new national empowerment agenda. Some of his most notable accomplishments are the Urban Youth Empowerment Program to assist young adults in securing sustainable jobs, and the creation of the National Urban League Empowerment Fund, which has pumped nearly $200 million into urban impact businesses through debt and equity investment. So I want you to know that he has also undertaken a national jobs tour and launched a war on unemployment in this country, and it's aimed at spurring elected officials to take action on job creation, which is what we're doing today. So it's my honor and privilege to introduce Mark Morial.